Hi there, Karen here. I'm just going to present to you a quick little routine that you can do as often as you find time to do so, to help to release the stiffness and repetitive movement that we do with our bodies that tends to build up a little too tight in one place, a little too weak or loose in another. This can be done any time of the day. Pretty simple, should take about 15 minutes. I've got some props here that could be handy. One is some sort of a belt or strap so you can reach for your feet. I got a little cushion here for my knees. You could even use like a folded up towel or something, unless you have a pretty soft mat. Don't really even need a mat. I got a foam roller, a yoga block would do, or any sort of a pile of books or something just to prop up yourself up in a few places. And there's a chair handy, but we all have furniture in our home, so some sort of anything lift could be helpful. Well, let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is just warm up your spine a little bit by coming onto all fours. You've done this, you've seen this. Simple cat and cow. Starting at your tailbone, start to move your spine into a back bend. So you lift your tail, you move your chest forward, you lift your chin, and let your shoulder blades just settle onto your upper back. Now keep a little tone in your abdomen as you do this, just so that you don't overdo it in the lower part of your back, your lumbar spine. Now we'll do the opposite. Scoop your tail under, you feel your abdominals lifting, spread your shoulder blades apart, and bring your chin down to your chest. Rolling into the back bend from the tailbone, inhaling as you go. Attempt to move smoothly, one vertebra at a time. And then tail to skull. Exhale, cat stretch. Nice fluid movement. Go as slowly as you like. And coordinate it with your breath so that it feels good. We'll give that a few more rounds of the cat and the cow. Nice. And then one more time. When you finish, you may want to take your knees a little bit wider apart now for this one as you sit back towards a child's pose. Now maybe your hips go all the way back to your feet, maybe they don't. It's all good. Just let your forehead rest down. It could be on your hands, it could be on your prop if it doesn't reach. And let your back stretch out a little bit. Little by little, start to creep your fingers forward as you keep your hips drawing back. And take a few breaths here. If you are sitting on your heels, you'll be getting a nice stretch through the toes and the tops of the feet as well. And now a gentle side stretch. So keeping your hips where they are, walk your hands over to one side. How much? Just enough to feel a stretch through the opposite side of your body. So the hips keep drawing back. And then you just take a few breaths here. Feel that tight band of connective tissue and muscles on the far side of your body. Give it a little movement with your breath. Give it a little patience. Excellent. And then back to the center, over to the opposite side. Again, just enough to feel the stretch. So all of these movements, these postures, these stretches that we do should feel good. In many of them, I'll give you several options so that you can find just the right degree of challenge for your body today. Great, and now come back to center. Back up onto your hands and your knees. Nice work. So now we're going to come into a gentle back bend called the Sphinx. So you just come all the way down to lie down on your front side, stretch your legs nice and long behind you, and point your toes. So make your legs nice and strong by pressing your toes down, hugging your legs gently towards each other, and firming your buttocks just a little bit. On top of all of that, attempt to get a little bit of a lift to the low belly. Think of a little zipper line going from your pubic bone up towards your navel. Keeping all of that, just let your chest reach forward. So we're never sacrificing any one part of the body for another. As a little gentle back bend for your spine. The belly lifts slightly, just to make sure that we don't overdo it here in your lower back, because it's really easy to do that. Another option would be to lower your chest and down just a little bit and take the arms up off of the floor. Now we're using a little more strength in the back to hold yourself up. Keep your legs strong, keep your buttocks engaged, keep your abdominal muscles drawing in towards your spine where they can be helpful. Chin down a little bit, shoulder blades drawing together on your upper back a little bit. And then last variation here, if you like, place your hands down on the floor, just alongside your ribs, not necessarily under your shoulders, and gently reach your chest forward a little bit more. You get a little support from your hands, but we're not pushing yourself up into a giant cobra. Breathe deeply, keep zipping up through the abdomen, keep lengthening back through the legs. One more breath. And then all the way down to rest. So either one of those, really important movement for your spine. We do so much forward bending every single day. Good job. And now we'll move into the down dog and a few variations of it. So a really easy variation of down dog that I like is called puppy. So we're going to keep our knees on the floor for this one. And you'll have your hips over your knees as you did in all fours position. Keeping that, start to walk your hands forward, creating a nice angle from your finger pads all the way up to your hips. And then stretch in that position so the hips draw back and up, the chest reaches forward and down, and the arms stretch straight. Another variation, which I really like and is excellent for anyone with super tight hamstrings or any lower back problems, and that's this chair version of downward facing dog. So you can see I've got my hands elevated quite a bit off of the floor. Feet are about shoulder width apart. Bend the knees slightly, but keep your legs strong. And then watch out for the tendency to round your lower back. So the tighter this part of your body is, the more it will want to pull your sitting bones down towards your heels. Minimize that by bending your knees. Lift your sit bones. Keep a little tone in the abdomen and lengthen through the spine. You can stay with either of those or try the full version. And that is, from hands and knees, lift your sit bones slightly, curl your toes under. The hips draw back and up, and there you are in your downward facing dog. Notice I have quite a bend in the knees. The goal of this posture is not so much of a leg stretch as it is a traction or a lengthening for your spine. So bend your knees enough to keep the curve in your lower back. Keep a little tone in your abdomen so that isn't overly curving. And then press your hands down and forward as you draw the hips back and up. The option here is to add a little leg movement into it, but keep your hips drawing back and up. Great, and then come on down. So any one of those, just fine. Do what feels right for you. Now we'll get into your hips a little bit. So I like a cushion for this one. I'll put it underneath one knee. I'll bring the other leg forward into a lunge position. I suggest starting with your back hip directly over your knee, and then bring your hands up to your front knee for support and balance. The idea here is to get your hip bones into a neutral upright position, so not overly tucked and not overly tipped forward. Nice and upright. If you feel a stretch here, stay right there. Otherwise, your other foot, your front foot, comes a little more forward, but we're still lifting up through the front of your hips. Arms could stretch up. They could stay on the hips, on the front thigh. Nice variation to this, it's a tricky little spin there to face you guys, is whichever leg you have back, extend that arm up on that same side and take a little side bend. So your head stays back, your tailbone moves slightly in, so you're keeping your body in alignment, in more of a neutral position. Ooh, do you feel it? Nice job. Let's go ahead and release. And now switch, other leg. So I love this little cushion. It's really awesome. I think it was a TJ Maxx find, but any folded up towel will do, or blanket, or maybe you don't even need it. Under the back knee, front knee forward, hips upright. If you feel a stretch, stay here, or come a little more forward with your front foot. Belly up, tailbone down, chest up, stay here or stretch one or both arms. Keep the tone in the abdomen, so you're zipping up through that zipper line on the front of your body. Keep this out of your lower back and right into the front thigh and hip of the back thigh, the front of the thigh and the hip flexors. And then here's your optional side bend. Nice work. And then out we come. Now this next one is a really dedicated stretch for your quads. You know we all need that. It's kind of a foolproof method. I love it. It's a little tricky getting into. So, and I wish I could, never mind, I'm just gonna go for it. So I'm gonna take my cushion with me. Take your blanket with you, whatever you have. Place one knee on it and slide that knee fairly close to a wall or maybe in front of a couch or something like that. So you want to be able to put your toes on that foot up the wall. Now, here's the deal. The closer your knee is to the wall or the couch, the deeper the stretch. So if you know you're a little tighter, give yourself plenty of room, maybe a foot or foot and a half. If you know you're a little more flexible, you can go a little bit closer. Here's the trick, and I'll just hold on to something to get there. The other foot then comes forward. That's the hardest part of the pose right there. All right, so we're in that same lunge position now. One foot forward, one leg back, but we've got the back knee flexed with the toes up the wall. You feel it? If you do not, then work on your hip position, bringing them nice and upright. And if you still don't feel it, go ahead and come on out. I just stretched out, so I'm not feeling it. I'm going to take the knee a little closer to the wall and then come back up again. Oh my goodness, now I feel that. So the belly zips up, so we're not collapsing the lower back or letting the belly drop forward. Beautiful. Stretching down through the front of your back thigh. You could add the arms if you like, stretching up. You could add the side bend if you like. I've got a little roof here, so I can't do that. You could even work on taking your hips and your back a little closer to the wall for a little more intensity. Be careful. Sometimes we don't need more. We all know that saying, sometimes less is more. Okay, second side, right? Use whatever you need to get in and out. Cushion goes near the wall, toes go up the wall, other leg one way or another figures out how to come forward, supporting you as you lift up into the quadricep stretch. Tailbone moves down, low belly lifts up. Hips come into a neutral upright position, so not tipping forward and not tucking under. So good. Any arm position you like? Maybe even starting to move your hips. Think of the sacrum and the low back, the bottom of your spine moving towards the wall a little bit. Maybe your back ribs moving a little bit towards the wall. Maybe not. Nice job. Okay, so come on out of there. That was not very graceful. And let's see where we're going next. Goody. We're going to lie on the back. So, I've got a little strap handy. I'm going to keep that close by. Anything will do. Got my foam roller here, but anything that can lift you up off the floor here and there that's somewhat sturdy will do. First one, okay, little stretch for the outer hip. We know we all need that. Easy peasy, lie back. Cross one leg over the opposite knee and flex the foot. You might feel this. If you do not, possibly reach for the opposite leg with your hands. You could hold the back of the thigh, you could hold the shin. Now for some of you, this may be too much, but then this is too little. So another way to use the wall, imagine that I've got my left foot resting up on the wall at a 45-degree angle. Cross the other leg over, flex the foot, and then slide that left foot down the wall. to give you the support for the posture. Some of you are a little beyond this. Perhaps you want to try it in a seated version. So pushing with your hands out of the floor to help lift your spine up and bring it a little closer to your shin. I'm sure you feel that. And if not, there's another version. That same leg comes down to the outer shin, and we come into what we call the downward facing pigeon pose. This one can be a little tricky on the knees, so if it doesn't work for your body, please avoid it at all costs. You can always prop up underneath your hips to take some of the weight out of the posture. Excellent. Second side. So remember, we have figure 4 on the back, maybe using the wall, maybe using your hands, taking the upright version, a little more intense, or possibly taking that front outer shin to the floor, bringing your hips a little more level and a little more square. Just make absolutely sure that this stress does not go into the knee joint. That is not why we're doing this posture. Should feel it in the outer hip and glutes. And if you keep that in mind when you're doing these stretches, what you're going for, that will help you get to the right degree of challenge. Nice work. Go ahead and release. Nice. Back onto your back now. And we'll take your strap. Starting with both feet on the floor, hook the belt over the arch of one foot. Lie back, stretch the knees straight. Obviously, hamstring stretch, yes? It's not about this. We don't need that in life. We just need about 90 degrees of flexion without our backs being affected. So before you go any further, check your back position. Should feel very relaxed and neutral. If your low back is pushing into the floor and your buttocks are scooping up towards the sky, that's too much. You might need to bend this top knee. If you can maintain the neutral position of your spine and your hips, then by all means, extend the other leg out on the floor and possibly even walk your hands a little closer to the foot. We'll stay for about 30 seconds or so, just relaxing your back, relaxing your hips into the floor, both sides, and taking some nice deep breaths. Wonderful. And now switch. Opposite foot on floor. Neutral hips and spine, so there might be a slight curve under your low back, nothing excessive, and certainly not pushing it into the floor. Shoulders and hips relaxed. Bend the top knee if you really need to, and that's perfectly fine. You've got to start somewhere, and then maybe the other leg stretches out too, but maybe not today. Very common to notice a difference, a marked difference from one side to another too, so be okay with that. Take some nice deep breaths, love your body. Respect it, but take care of it. Great. So there we are. We'll come out of the strap. And now we'll do a little bridge. I'm going to keep the support close by. This is a nice stretch for the front of the body, strengthener for your buttocks. So we'll have the feet, about shoulder width apart. The shoulders themselves relaxing back. Okay, so nice and flat against the floor with your shoulder blades. And then press the feet down to lift your hips up. The belly stays strong. You'll feel that. The knees stretch away from your hips. The belly lifts towards your chest. Now, to really get into your deep hip flexors here, which is so important for many of us, and also for low back health, take your roller if you have one, and if not, place a block or something maybe 6 to 8 inches high, and place it underneath your hips. Now, it's important that it's not in your lumbar spine, in the curvy part of your back. It's right underneath your hips. right underneath that bone at the base of your spine called your sacrum. Awesome. Once you've got that in place, you can play around with if you have a roller, you can play around with the tilt of your hips so you find what feels to be neutral. And then one leg stretches out. Okay, and you watch when you do that you don't let it go into your back as I'm doing so nicely here. So you might want to keep your front ribs down a little bit and just go as far as you can without losing the integrity of your back position. So this is a hip stretch and a release, not so much a stretch, but a release for a very deep muscle that connects your thighs to your spine. Some people feel comfortable doing both legs together. If not, do one at a time and then just switch after about 30 seconds or so. And guess what? You can stay here for as long as 5 minutes or so. You might find it to be really powerful for your body. This is kind of one of my almost everyday, I should do it every day, postures. So just make sure you've gotten both sides. And then coming out can sometimes be a little tricky. So make your legs strong, press your arms down, bring your feet back in, and then just slide that contraption out from underneath your hips and gently, slowly, patiently let them down into the ground. You might want to just hang out. You might want to rock your knees side to side. You might want to hug your knees in towards your chest. We'll do just one more here to finish off, and this is going to be a twist for your spine. You'll also feel a nice release for the sides of your body. So to get into it, let's slide your hips off to one side, maybe 6 inches or so, and then roll your knees over to the opposite side. You can do any sort of leg position that you like. I often like to wrap the top leg around the bottom just to keep the knee down and also get into that stretch of the outer thigh. Anything will do. You can even prop up underneath if they don't quite reach the floor. Once you've figured out the legs, get nice and long evenly through both sides of your torso, from your hips to your armpits, and let your shoulders relax. You may want to raise your arms, widen your arms, bend your elbows. And you can stay here again for as long as you like, but probably at least 20 to 30 seconds. Knees could go a little higher, they could go a little lower. So many variations. Know what you're going for. Spinal rotation and a side body stretch. Let's go into the other side. Knees up. Slide your hips in the opposite direction. Roll your knees away and find a leg position that works for you. Lengthen through both sides of your torso evenly and relax your arms and shoulders into the ground. Good job, everybody. These can be repeated. They could be done once, done twice, done in segments, but they don't work unless you do them. We'll finish off with nice neutral position of your hips. Let your legs stretch out. And if that's intense at all, be kind to yourself. Prop the knees up a little bit or the backs of your thighs and just let your back release and relax. I hope you had a good practice. Let me know how it goes, and we'll be adding some more here, perhaps. Take care.